So have you ever stopped to think about what holds everything together? I don't just mean a team or a country, but, the entire universe. We're about to dig into a really fascinating answer to that question, and it comes from a 1983 sermon called True Love and the Spirit of Universality. It puts forward this one single, powerful idea that connects us all, and we're going to break down exactly how it gets there.
Okay, let's just dive right in. The sermon kicks off with this massive, fundamental question. It asks, how do you get unity, not just in a small group, but at every single level imaginable, from one person all the way up to the entire cosmos?
I mean, let that sink in for a second. The idea here is that there's one single unifying law, a kind of spiritual physics that works for the cells in your body, the people in a country, and even the galaxies out in space. It's a pretty huge claim, right? So let's follow the logic here, step by step, and see how it builds its case. So before it tells us what this unifying principle is, the sermon first lays down a really critical piece of groundwork. It basically says that for any kind of unity to even be possible, one specific thing has to be in place. It gives us a couple of really simple, down-to-earth examples. Think about a company. The employees all unite around the president, right? Or at least around a common goal set by the leadership. Now think about a person. Your body follows the directions of your mind. In both situations, the big point is that unity needs a center point that everything else can organize around.
So this is absolutely key to the whole argument. Unity, according to this sermon, doesn't just happen. It's not some kind of spontaneous, democratic agreement where everyone magically gets on the same page at once. Nope. It's framed as a very directed process that has to start from a single, identifiable center.
Okay, so if unity needs a center, what's the tool that we actually use to connect with that center? Well, the sermon argues that for any person, the main instrument you've got is your mind.
But what kind of mind are we even talking about here? This is where it gets interesting. The sermon dives a little deeper by asking that classic nature versus nurture question. Is a mind that's truly capable of creating unity something we have to be taught, or is it just built into us from the start?
And the sermon comes down hard on one side of that debate. It says that, education can definitely shape and polish the mind, but its essential goodness, its vast, limitless potential, that's inherent. We're all born with it. It's not something you can just learn from a book.
So this is the sermon's big vision for the mind. It's not trapped by your body or by how many degrees you have on your wall. It's this universal thing inside every single one of us, and it's capable of this huge, boundless compassion. And what guides it ultimately? Not some external set of rules, but that inner moral compass we call conscience.
All right, so if every single person has this powerful, universal mind, how in the world do they all connect? How do you unify billions of them? To explain this, the sermon uses this, it's a surprisingly elegant metaphor from geometry, of all things.
The argument goes like this. A complete, ideal, totally perfect mind can be thought of as a perfect circle, a full 360 degrees. Anything less than that, it's just incomplete. So this circle, it becomes the blueprint for understanding unity. It represents wholeness, perfection. It's a structure where every single point along the edge can trace a path right back to one single shared origin point in the middle. Okay, so here's how the model actually works. You've got the outer circle, that's the ideal, complete mind. Then you have all these individual paths, the radii, which you can think of as all the different people and perspectives in the world. And then, and this is the most important part, you've got that single center point. The whole idea is that it doesn't matter which path you're on, you're all equal as long as you connect to that one shared origin. And then this whole geometric model is used to critique human systems like democracy. The argument is that they're kind of like a circle that's only 359 degrees. I mean, it's almost there, but it's not quite whole. Because their laws are based on consensus and they change over time, they just don't have that eternal absolute quality of a full 360-degree truth.
And this, right here, brings us to the most important question in the sermon's entire argument. If every mind is a circle, and if unity means that every path has to pass through that center, then what is the center point?
The sermon goes through the usual suspects, right? It considers things like money or power or knowledge. And it says, sure, those things can be temporary centers, but they can never be the universal center. So it asks, what single principle could possibly unify everything in the cosmos for all time?
And here it is. The central thesis is revealed. The universal center point, the origin that can unify all things, is what the sermon calls true love. And it's defined as being so fundamental that it's the one thing even God needs a partner to experience. That's what makes it the essential ingredient for all harmony.
So now we have the final piece of this whole puzzle, the unifying principle of true love. So how does the sermon see this idea actually working to connect the entire world?
And here we get the final, really powerful metaphor for what a unified humanity could look like. It shifts from the geometry of a single circle to this beautiful image that connects countless individual circles together.
I mean, how incredible is that imagery? In this vision, our individual minds, they aren't erased. They're not forced to all be the same. They're like pearls. Each one keeps its own unique character and beauty. But what connects them, what brings them all into one harmonious whole, is that single thread of true love passing right through the absolute center of every single one.
And finally, the sermon just completely reframes our entire purpose for being here on Earth. It draws this really stark parallel. Just like our lungs have to have air to function in this physical world, our spirit has to have love to function in the next. So our life here, this whole experience, is basically a training ground where we learn how to breathe love, because it's an essential skill for whatever comes next.
And that really leaves us with the sermon's ultimate challenge, doesn't it? It's this call to elevate love from just a feeling into something as essential, as constant, as the very act of breathing. And what it would actually mean to live that way? Well, that's the provocative question we're all left to answer for ourselves.